Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that man do lives after them. The good is oft inferred. Oh, wow. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault. A grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man. So are they all honorable men. Come, I speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When that poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that on Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure, he is an honorable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin, there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Courtney, and welcome to the Time Travelers Club. Here we are, everyone. It's time for new daddy to die. And
Dun, dun, dun.
2,000-year spoiler alert, I suppose? The events that count down to perhaps the most iconic moment in Western history would go on to turn all these people we've discussed in the last couple of months into legends. It would go on to inspire artists, playwrights, rulers, governments, philosophers, and the world imagination up to today. All within a few minutes, 23 stab wounds, only one of them being fatal. And despite the well-thought-out conspiracy you might be imagining, the truth was far messier. This whole thing could have been stopped so many times. And there were so many red flags in that Gryffindor house would be jealous. Even the act itself was pretty botched. And it's honestly insane how this thing was even pulled off. The assassination of Mark Antony's new daddy and Cleopatra's baby daddy, Gaius Julius Caesar, on the Ides of March 44 BCE, stands as an epoch-making event, not merely for its dramatic violence, but for its profound and irreversible impact on the Roman Empire. This act of regicide, intended by its perpetrators to restore traditional Republican liberties, instead plunged Rome into a new cycle of civil wars, ultimately paving the way for the rise of the Roman Empire. Central to this tumultuous period, both in the leads up to the assassination and its immediate aftermath, was the figure of Mark Antony. But this isn't about Caesar. That the horse had been beaten or stabbed to death anyway. Instead, we will meticulously examine our boy Antony's complex and pivotal role. We will be tracing his unwavering loyalty to Caesar, his calculated performance during the controversial Lupercalia festival, his crucial absence on the fateful His crucial absence on the fateful Ides of March and his masterful manipulation of public sentiment that decisively turned the tide against the conspirators. Because despite his party boy frat bro vibes, Antony, through a unique blend of personal devotion and astute political calculation and unparalleled rhetorical genius, inadvertently transformed a moment of perceived Republican triumph into the very crucible that forged the end of the Republic he ostensibly served. Caesar would die, so others could shine.
But as we've been discussing before, the cataclysmic events of 44 BCE, Tony here had already carved out a significant and equally controversial career in Roman public life, largely under the formidable shadow of new daddy Julius Caesar. By 44 BCE, Antony had reached the pinnacle of Roman political power, serving as Caesar's co-consul, making him not just a confident, but visible public face of Caesar's increasingly autocratic regime. The political climate was fraught with tension. Caesar, having been declared dictator perpetuo, dictator for life, earlier that year, was accumulating, say it with me, unprecedented honors and powers, alarming many traditionalist senators who feared the complete erosion of Republican institutions and reestablishment of monarchy, a concept deeply abhorrent to the Roman identity since the expulsion of kings. And are they wrong?
No.
No. I mean, come on. As we're going to see, he's playing the role. Julius Caesar is wearing stuff that looks kingly and queenly with them red kinky boots.
Kinky boots.
He's not acting humble, that's for sure.
No, but I think, honestly, if he had behaved humbly, he would not have been able to achieve what he did.
No, I agree. And like we just said, he has to die for all these other people to shine. And I think it was reaching its natural conclusion. We could play the what if game of what if he lived, but A, this isn't Julius Caesar's story.
Nope.
B, there's a lot of thoughts out there that he may have been dying.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I think that there was going to be an end game sooner rather than later, one way or another. So, yeah. Let's talk about something near and dear to our hearts. The Lupercalia Festival.
Yay.
So, it was celebrated annually on February 15th. Awfully close to February 14th.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it provided a stage for a pivotal pre-assassination event that laid bare Caesar's perceived monarchical ambitions and Antony's unwavering, almost theatrically loyalty. This ancient Roman festival, with roots in purification, fertility, and rites associated with the legendary founders, Romulus and Remus, was traditionally a rustic and somewhat wild affair, which is unusual for Romans, right?
Mm-hmm. This is a pressure valve festival.
Yes.
You're able to maintain this amount of order and law because there are certain times of the year and certain things where you can go fucking nuts. This is one of them.
They had Saturnalia and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, but this is one of those ones where, like, Saturnalia was kind of like Mardi Gras. Still has the same level of like sacredness to it, but we'll get into it. We'll get into all of the symbology, right? Mm-hmm. Romulus and Remus, name drop, legendary founders of Rome, right?
Nursed by the
Also,
she-wolf.
right. Alternatively, founded by Aeneas, son of Aphrodite, aka Venus.
Mm-hmm.
Which one's true? But, because Julius Caesar here is claiming he is a descendant of the founder of Rome. That's not Romulus and Remus, but yeah, that details. So, um, anything to wear those boots. So, it all began at the Lupercal Cave on Palatine Hill, believed to be where the she-wolf suckled the twins. Here, goats and sometimes dogs were sacrificed. Luperci, priests of the god Lupercus, would then smear blood on the foreheads of two noble youths, which was then wiped clean with milk, eliciting ritualistic laughter. So it's giving like cue cards where it tells the audience to laugh. Like,
A little bit. A
this
little bit. But
is what weird.
realistically, here's the beautiful thing about laughter. I'm going to start laughing and you're going to start laughing because guess what? It's contagious. We can fake laugh all day long. It takes maybe 10 seconds for it to turn into a real life.
Yeah,
Like,
and I know that. It's just funny because it's like, I just imagine like you have this like whole solemn ceremony and then like, and it's so serious, right? And then all of a sudden this guy comes up with like a cue card with like laugh written in Latin. And everyone's just like, ha, 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 ha. It's just like a game show. It's really weird. I want to know how that was like done. But like,
absolutely. I think it would be hilarious.
So following a feast, the Luperci stripped naked. So these are those priests, okay? They stripped naked, or nearly so. It was kind of optional, right? You would get at least down to your skivvies, but some guys were really proud of their physique and had no problem stripping naked publicly, which is usually frowned upon in Rome. These are not the Greeks. I think we have this idea in our head that they liked being naked all the time. That was more Greek, but even then there was context depending on the city state you're in. But in Rome, yes, they had bathhouses. So like, yes, public nudity. You weren't necessarily shy, but only within certain settings. You don't just go like working out naked in like on the street.
We're not going balls out in the middle of the street, okay? That's not...
You're not going nothing out. Your chest is out? No. Put those titties away. God.
How dare you?
And we're not even talking about women. We're talking about men. Like it was layers. It was togas. It was like it was modesty. So let's take that right off the board. Romans were not known for being naked. Probably a good thing because a lot of them, because they have a old guy patriarchal culture, probably for the best. No one wants to see them old balls hanging out anyway. So they would strip naked, as we've said, and then my favorite part, they would run through the city, striking women with strips of goat skin called febra, and a ritual believed to promote fertility and ease childbirth. So they are running through the streets. Ladies are bent over and they're smacking their ass with a cat of nine tails.
Yes, they are. And it is not as like a forced thing. These women wanted to be hit with this goat skin, okay? Like, this may or may not be one of the beginnings of the BDSM community.
I mean, let's be real, that's been around for but it was just one of those things that, like, yes, it's not like, oh, these women are like not like they're like tied up or something and like have to. No, like there's like think of like think about the Macy's Day Parade, like Thanksgiving Day Parade. And instead of floats, we have naked guys and like ladies bent over ready to get spanked.
Or Mardi Gras, show a little titty and get some beads.
I just like to take something wholesome like the Macy's St. Saint. Why do I keep saying Saint? The Macy, our Saint Macy's.
Saint Macy.
Yes,
May she rest in peace.
patron saint of capitalism. Uh, no, just taking something wholesome like a Thanksgiving Day parade, though, where and just ruining it. That's what I want to do. Everyone knows Mardi Gras is wild. This is like, I just like to take think of like SpongeBob and Goku and Bluey, and then naked guys spanking ladies.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, everyone's a willing participant. It's all in good fun. So, this is by far one of the least problematic things about Rome. So, in 44 BCE, Caesar had established a new politically charged college of priests. These were called the Luperci Lulani, right? Explicitly named in his honor and dedicated. Oh, I read that wrong. In 44 BCE, Caesar had established a new politically charged college of priests called the Luperci Juliani, explicitly named in his honor and dedicated to his family, the gens Julia. Wow. Could you imagine? Like if all the Catholic priests now had to be called like Daddy Trump. Like, instead of like this is everyone, all the priests have to be called Trump. Priest Trump. Like, it's just like, I'm just using a random, like, political figure, but, like, it is wild. Like, it's weird. It's weird. And if it's weird now imagine this being a sacred thing. It might
be a little bit more weird.
Might piss some people off. Might come off as arrogant.
Un poquito.
Right? Right. So, this move was a clear attempt by Caesar to integrate his personal cult into Rome's ancient religious fabric, further solidifying his divine and historical connection to the city's origins. So that solves a problem, I suppose. Not only are you the descendant of Aphrodite and the one founder of Rome, now you're connected to the other supposed founder of Rome. Yeah. So it doesn't matter which one you believe is the real founder of Rome. They're both, all roads lead to Caesar, apparently.
You know what? I dig it.
So, Mark Antony, as Caesar's most trusted lieutenant and co-consul, was appointed, of course, as the head or magister of this new college. Of course he is.
As you do.
This placed him directly at the forefront of the festival's activities, of course, making him the designated actor in Caesar's audacious political play. Because Caesar can't go running around naked in the streets, right? Which, I mean, in hindsight, maybe for the best.
Possibly.
So, Antony's participation as the chief celebrant of this new Caesar-centric order was a highly transgressive act for a man of consular rank. His willingness, eagerness even, to participate in the sacred run, stripped down and likely oiled. As Cicero, of course, vividly and disdainfully describes, because he's a petty bitch.
Honestly, the fact that he would put in that notation, it's very much giving the older brother in the movie Sex Drive.
I was just thinking he's just a jealous old nerd, like these freaking jocks. Like,
no, like I swear to God, Cicero is gay as fuck.
The thing is, if nothing else, like, God, like, I love that he thinks that this is going to somehow insult Antony. He's like, look at him, with his muscles and oil, and he's hot. God, no shame. And he thinks that's a legit insult. You called him hot and oiled and confident in his body.
Yeah.
Ooh. Even for the Romans, like, they probably rolled a little eye, I mean, sure, maybe he was a little too eager, but at the same time, no one could deny this guy was hot. Well, by all accounts, Antony was hot. Not like, propaganda hot. Even people like Cicero who hated him admitted he was oiled up with rippling muscles to their, like chagrin. So, right. So in his, if we want to go into the details of this, because of course I do, it was public disregard for traditional gravitas, modesty and all that, right? The fact that you caved in to this, which is like, again, it's your festival, dumbass, but whatever.
Yep.
Right. Anyway, Cicero in his Philippics, particularly Philippic 2, written later but reflecting the contemporary sentiment, launched a scathing personal attack on Antony for his perceived undignified behavior, ridiculing him as, quote, naked, smeared with ointment, drunk, worked, running through the forum in consular procession. God, Cicero.
he's so
Like his
he's so
inner
suppressed. I'm
bitter nerd
sorry.
is
He's
yes, and
repressed.
he's repressed, but also his inner bitter nerd is showing.
Oh, it
Like,
is.
tell me you're jealous and hating. Like, but like any God. Anyway, we love this. Clearly, we are repressed and projecting envy and trauma here, buddy. Another way of looking at this is that it was a calculated sacrifice of personal dignity and was always likely intended by Caesar to demonstrate Antony's absolute, unreserved loyalty, even if it meant alienating segments of the conservative Roman elite. And since Antony had never been described as unattractive or modest, would have been like, say less, my dude. I get to run around with my dick out. Sounds good. And spank a couple ladies. Sounds great.
Sounds like a good time
Say
for
less.
me.
Like, well, I know. No. You're done. You've convinced me. Like, yeah.
I am
But those old
convinced.
men are going to be really mad at you. Oh my God, I told you I'll do it. Like, Cicero's going to be there. Awesome. God, I think I just creamed my toga. Like, for real. Speaking of climax, the climax of Tony's performance, however, was the infamous offering of the diadem. This is an iconic moment. At the beginning of this, we just quoted Shakespeare, right? And he mentions it, that he offered not once, not twice, but thrice, right? So let's dig into it. New Daddy, rather than participating in the chaotic run, was strategic, which again, probably for the best. He's like a 50 something going on 60 something year old man with a weird shaped head. I don't know. I don't think anyone wanted to see his old balls. He might have been in good shape, but he's still, no shame, right? I just think that we don't want to see, I don't know, it's giving RFK Jr. running naked. Like, no one wants to see that.
No. I need
And
the
it's
brain
RFK
bleach.
Jr. looks like he's in pretty good shape.
Brandon, I need the brain bleach. How dare you? Oh, God.
I know. And I'm just saying, for his age, he's in pretty good shape. But I don't think anyone wants to see that. So with that being said, and anyone who disagrees with me and thinks you love him and all that, I mean, you're listening to the wrong podcast. Come on, what are you doing here? You know where we are. Anyway, so rather than that, he was strategically positioned on a gilded chair on the rostra in the Roman Forum, observing the festivities. His elevated position, combined with his triumphal robe, God, he's glamorous, presented him as the almost god-like figure, set apart from the common citizens in the traditional republic setting of the rostra. I'm also imagining those glorious thigh-high boots, those red kinky boots.
Please, I love the kinky
Imagining him as a total diva. He's got that golden laurel crown, which actually supposed to be refusing it, but whatever. The magnificent purple robes, and then he's got his legs like crossed, and those scarlet thigh-high boots with like the 6-inch stiletto heels. Just kind of like think like Dr. Frankenfurter.
Yes, I love Dr. Frankenfurter.
a transsexual from Transylvania. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, if that's the case, that's why he can't run. And this is my fanfic, so let me have it.
Meanwhile, Tony, in the midst of his ritual run, approached Caesar carrying a diadem, a white band often adorned with a laurel, specifically and explicitly a symbol of Hellenistic monarchy. Plutarch describes Antony twining a wreath of laurel around a diadem and being lifted on high by his fellow runners to present it. So they're literally grabbing his bare ass to
I
lift
know.
him
I'm thinking
up.
this is
Oh.
hot. He's sweaty.
Oh, God.
Balls out.
Jesus
And he's on all these
Christ.
other hot guys. And he's
Oh,
like,
boy.
Daddy, take the crown, Daddy.
Oh, no.
And Daddy's sitting there, legs crossed with his thigh-high boots. And he's like, But tell us, what does Daddy Caesar say? Or, well, what does Antony say first?
But Cassius Dio records Antony's explicit declaration, "The people offer this to you through me," as he physically attempted to place the diadem on Caesar's head.
Balls
Caesar's
out.
reaction was a meticulously choreographed reaction. It was rejection, a public performance designed to gauge and manage public sentiment. Plutarch notes Caesar's affected modesty as he initially declined the diadem. Antony persisted, trying again, and Caesar pushed it away. This repeated offering and refusal became a public spectacle, with the crowd's reaction serving as the crucial barometer. While Antony's immediate supporters offered muted applause for his efforts, the larger populace cheered loudly with each of Caesar's refusals. This demonstrated the Roman Republic's deep-seated aversion to the title of king, a sentiment rooted in the overthrow of their last monarch, Tarquin the Proud. Centuries prior, I believe it's 526, no more kings in Rome, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Latin class hammered that into my head. But Caesar, ever the astute politician, recognized this and, publicly at least, yielded to popular sentiment. Plutarch even adds a dramatic detail. Caesar, in displeasure, pulled back his toga and cried out that anyone who pleased might smite him there, a theatrical gesture designed to evoke sympathy underscored his feigned humility, and perhaps even dare his hidden enemies to act openly.
The drama.
So much.
So let's paint the scene one more time. Antony, ripped and hot, sweaty and oiled up. Cicero in the crowd, just turning purple with rage over this, with a suspicious stick under his toga. Cleo, who's not supposed to be there, I like to think she's in the balcony somewhere, oh yeah.
Watching.
Watch, hashtag watching, hashtag not really here, hashtag babies on babies on babies. Anyway.
Babies on babies on babies. Oh boy.
Wishing that they were young. So, for real though, we've got Mark Antony and his bros, hot, lubed, ready to go. They've lifted him up. He's got this crown, right? Which is actually just a headband with some gold sticks glued to it, but whatever. He's got that. Mm-hmm. They've thrusted him upon his shoulders, his nutsack probably sticking to him. And yes, this is not a PG rated podcast. And you've got Caesar on his chair, legs crossed, thigh-high boots, looking glamorous, maybe a slit up the side of the toga to show some of that leg. And he's just hand out, no, Antony, no, I cannot. And then finally he gets up, makes a power pose with those boots, and then with both hands rips open the front of his toga, exposing his breasts if anyone is pleased with this, smite me, stab me if you must. If I got it pretty correct. No one asked him to do that.
The theatrics are just oh.
So
And this is
here's
why,
the
like, I understand why people dislike Caesar, but this, I'm just sitting there, snaps. Caesar.
yes.
Yes.
So I don't want to get too much into it, but here are my thoughts of what is going down right now. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was to gauge how people would respond. And I like this is where I'm going to play a what if scenario.
Mm-hmm.
I think in what if the people had supported it, right? On the first or second try, they're just like, yes, take it, Daddy Caesar, right? And he did. For him, that would have been and Cleopatra, to be fair, would have been the best case scenario. Now, down the line, Cleopatra is going to be blamed for this little stunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
The diadem is her culture's item, right? We've talked about that. I think when we think diadem, we think some beautiful, fancy thing, but that it's just really a white headband. But that's specifically regalia for the Ptolemies who are part of the Hellenistic culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that alone, not great look for her later, right? And, on the other hand, if he had been allowed essentially to be king for real, because that the one thing he's missing, yes, he's dictator for life, but it ends with his life, right? There is no successor, not in the traditional sense.
Mm-hmm. So that's the
So
only
if
thing that's missing is succession.
right, which for him at his age and potentially, again, no spoilers, maybe having some health issues, he is probably thinking, oh shit, this is fucking BC, folks.
Mm-hmm.
It's going on in your 50s and 60s. You old, you ancient, right? You geriatric.
Geriatric. Oh God.
No, for real,
Oh
right?
no, I
Like
know.
even Anthony in his 30s right now is given like hot middle-aged dad, apparently. Like I mean, I'm
Trash.
like older than Antony is at this moment. But anyway,
Hear your bullshit. You're younger than me.
that's still weird. So anyway, the point is, right? And he's got a son with this baby mama, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is he doesn't reject the kid. He could have rejected the kid. The fact that he doesn't tells me that maybe this is a him, not a her. Maybe he ran it by her. I don't know. But I think this is more of a him thing, right?
Absolutely.
Because then he can take that kid and like fully, that kid can inherit.
Yeah.
And become a king of Egypt and Rome. That's bananas, right? And of course, later on, people do point that out and they're like, yo, Cleo, we see what you're doing. But I don't think it's really Cleo, right? Like, I mean, maybe she was in on it, sure. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that's giving her, and I hate to say it, too much agency in this, right? I don't think she's bad at it. But she's also a pretty savvy character, and she knows she's an outsider, right? And from an outsider's perspective, that seems dangerous.
It seems dangerous, is dangerous, but not just that. I mean, every move that she makes is heavily scrutinized, and she is having to balance not only her position as a foreign queen and the dictator in Perpetuo's, mistress, lover, thing, whatever that's going on. She's in a foreign land.
You're right.
She has no actual power here besides the fact that,
that hates
no
women,
power here is
that hates
hers.
foreigners, that hates monarchs.
Yep.
She's literally all of those things.
She is everything that they despise.
And on top of that, right? Like, I think what really is going on here, right? Why Cleo gets blamed for this later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want Caesar to have agency in this. He has to be enshrined. He has to be a god and uphold Roman virtues, which at
Yeah.
that time were still Republican. The moment you make him like he wanted to be king, and he did it of his own volition, without manipulation, without, then now that completely undoes all that.
It does.
So for the sake of, and that's why he's playing this game right now too, because right now he's playing it's a dangerous game, but it's one where if he needs to, he can back out and say, "See, I reject it."
Exactly. So the Lupercalia incident, as it would be called later, was a calculated political test, a public experiment to gauge the extent of Roman tolerance for monarchy. It clearly demonstrated Caesar's ambition and Antony's willingness to act as his loyal instrument. Crucially, while Caesar's public rejection appeared to affirm Republican values, the very act of offering the diadem and the fact that it was even considered served as undeniable proof for the conspirators that Caesar intended to be king. This event significantly hardened their resolve, providing them with a concrete justification for their desperate plot. So just a quick note. It is important to note that there is no historical evidence from primary sources to suggest Fulvia, our queen of the streets and OG baddie, was directly involved in these specific rituals. While her influence in Antony's broader political life was profound, the Lupercalia's priestly functions and central political drama were male-dominated because Rome.
Yeah, and the reason this is important to note, there are accounts where they try to imply that essentially Antony was pussy whipped and therefore not in his right mind.
Yeah, they're trying to blame a woman for a man's actions. Tale as old as time.
They're either saying, "Oh," which I don't even know what Fulvia would gain out of this, but whatever. Let's be real, Cleopatra has more to gain out of it than her, but literally anybody but the men they're going to blame. But most accounts, if they're not just blaming her for Antony's antics here, they're implying that he was just so sex crazed, pussy whipped, and in like Delulu land that he was making those choices. So it's still her fault, just that in a sense of like, well, she may not have meant to, but because she's so hot and so great in bed, he just was out of his mind.
It's hilarious how powerless and powerful a woman is simultaneously in their minds. It's like, pick one.
Make up your mind.
Pick one.
Like, what is it? Are they dumb and they need men to protect them? Or are they so smart that you have to be scared of them? Right? Pick one. Pick a lane.
One.
And, she pisses them off, and Cleopatra both piss these men off, because at this time you're getting these philosophies about how men and women are different, and how men are physically able to do certain things that women can't. And then these women prove them wrong. Yep. Women can lead, women can command and keep a level head and have strategy and run governments and do all those things. And this pisses them off because they either have to admit they've always been wrong, which is hilarious.
They would never do that.
Right, they would never. We're still struggling with that today, folks.
God, yes. Like I am so fucking shocked that these morons in government haven't decided that we have wandering wombs yet again. Like
some of them have like, and yet, you know what I'm saying? Like the stuff that sometimes is, again, the worst. I mean, that
was such a good impression.
I mean, and this is not me mocking like someone who has like a condition, like, okay, like whatever. It's just like you needed to get the reference. Okay. I was doing an impression, and that's not the thing we're making fun of here. No. It's the Tylenol and the foreskins and the autism.
It's always the Tylenol and the foreskins.
I just want to throw out there that my sister, I do not have a foreskin. Fun facts about me. And my sister is a woman and cannot have a foreskin. And she's autistic, and I am not.
It was the
My
Tylenol. It had
spouse,
to be the
who is
Tylenol at
going
that
to
point.
love that I'm throwing this out there, does have foreskin and maybe also on the spectrum. We don't know. So I'm just saying,
Good Lord.
this is your PDA, way off topic. I do not believe that foreskins are connected to having neurodivergency.
I would very much agree with you.
So with that being said, back to Rome.
Let's continue.
Yeah, where
So
they all had foreskins.
the legendary status of this scene, particularly Antony's role, was cemented by its dramatic tension and its clear foreshadowing of Caesar's ultimate fate, making it a recurring motif in historical accounts and later literary works, most notably Shakespeare's Julius Caesar.
And I just want to throw this out there. Feel free to steal this idea if anyone is listening, okay? Let's do Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, but with drag, okay?
God, yes!
We're going to have some people like Antony, not in drag, He's just, he's going to be the Rocky of this Rocky horror, okay? Right? So oversexed up, but definitely a man. And then we're going to have a drag Julius Caesar, okay?
I need it.
He's fabulous.
Please, do we have any queens listening? Oh my God, I need to see it. Please.
And then Caesar or Cicero's going to be like that old professor in the wheelchair, but like angrier.
Oh my God, what if they did Rocky Horror, but as literal, like dressed up as like Caesar and Mark Antony?
Yes.
Yes.
So anyway, someone wants to take a super serious play like Julius Caesar, make a whole production in drag. All I ask is you invite and give me a ticket. And Courtney, give us tickets.
Give us tickets.
That's all. That's all.
So
we don't need credit. We don't need money. I mean, we need money, but like that, we won't ask for it, right? All we ask is for a ticket. That's all. So anyway, and then on the other hand, this whole Lupercalia incident, right? Mm-hmm. And we talked about how these enemies, I don't think they were wrong, right? Mm-hmm. On a more serious note, they knew what Caesar was up to here, right? Like, mm-hmm. Tell me they're wrong. This whole shenanigans with the diadem, like, yeah, it's proof that he wanted to be king. Who do you think you're fooling, right? I don't think they were really making a huge leap here.
No, they weren't making a huge leap, but what they didn't take into account, and I think the part that really I wish they had, but because they are, for the most part, the people in power, how did the people react to him?
Right.
The people.
Well, I think they misread. I think the people were about it, and is not enough. They did misread the room. They took silence as meaning approval for the other end of it.
Yeah.
And that's not the same thing.
That's not what it was.
So, here we go. I just had the worst image in my head. Feel free to cut this if you want.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just thought about like this whole festival, and then there's like semen on the ground, and like Cicero's trying to get he's like, I'm out of here, and he slipped on on
You're so wrong for that.
And then he's like,
"Oh my God,
Antony!"
Because it's always Antony's fault that he's slipping on cum.
Of course it is.
Oh my God.
So anyway. All right.
Yeah, I'm definitely cutting that, just so you're aware.
That's fine. Save that for like the bloopers. Anyway.
Yes.
So, approximately 4 weeks later, between the Lupercalia Festival, that's February 15th, and the Ides of March 15th, 44 BCE, were not a period of calm, but rather an escalating crescendo of tension, political maneuvering, and desperate clandestine activity in Rome. Caesar's actions continue to fuel the fears of the senatorial elite, while the conspirators finalize their deadly plans. And they're freaking out, guys. Like, we'll get into it, but like, they're like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, which shocks no one because remember when they ran away from Rome and they did the same thing and they all went, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And they left literally an entire vault full of gold.
Yep.
These are not rational people.
No, they are not.
Following the Lupercalia, Caesar's behavior increasingly confirmed the anxieties of the traditionalist faction. Reports from ancient sources indicate a growing disregard for traditional senatorial courtesies and republican norms. For instance, Suetonius recounts an incident where Caesar failed to rise when a delegation of senators approached him to bestow further honors, an egregious breach of etiquette that deeply offended the proud Roman aristocracy. This is such an interesting thing. There's a theory, and I don't know if you've heard of this theory, that he may have had epilepsy, right?
Oh, no, I haven't heard this theory.
Yes. So it's kind of confirmed he did have bouts like fits, okay, that were getting worse at this time. That is just documented. What that means, some people have, and for a while, people have been like, "Oh, he was an epileptic."
Mm-hmm.
What people are starting to think now is maybe he actually was having strokes. And to me, some of these actions are kind of raising that red flag for me.
Gotcha.
Let's look at his age, right?
Yeah.
It's not unheard of. At someone in their 50s and 60s, my grandmother went through that. And the thing is, it's like some strokes, right, of course, are like real hardcore, the face, paralysis, all that. But then there's another thing called TIA, right? A mini stroke, if you will. And those can kind of they sometimes are mistaken for epilepsy because there's also minor epileptic episodes where you just zone out.
Yeah, it's what is it, like the dissociating one?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's where, I'm not a doctor, but I guess they can be sometimes to the untrained eye, which it's ancient Rome, folks. There's no trained eyes. Might be, be mistaken for something like that. So the theory is in this specific instance is that maybe he was sitting on the steps because he was having one of these spells and he didn't respond when the people showed up because he was in the middle of essentially having a stroke.
Oh, shit. That's dark, though. Holy shit, that's dark. Okay.
And that's also why we'll get into it. He starts campaigning to want to go to Parthia, but we'll get into that in a minute. Okay. But I just want to put that out there. He may not have been a dick. He may not have been because the way they're painting is like he was just so arrogant by this point that he wouldn't even stand for them. And he was throwing to the wayside etiquette and stuff. And this is Caesar, guys. He is charismatic. He knows how to read a room. It just seems out of character for him.
Extremely.
Even for him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially since he rejected this whole crown thing. And maybe we're wrong because we can't go back and we can't figure that out. But it's a theory. So the next thing is less to do with strokes, but it could be a symptom, these erratic behavior or bad decision making, shall we say. Mm-hmm. So there were these actions where combined with his acclamum of extraordinary titles. So we've got Dictator Perpetuo, Dictator for life, mm-hmm. Pontifex Maximus, which is intense, Imperator, Consul, and the new proposed title of Father of the Country.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So this has reinforced the perception that he was moving towards becoming an absolute monarchical rule, which, Romans don't like, kings.
Yep.
So then there's this last bit. Caesar was actively preparing for a massive military campaign against the Parthian Empire, Rome's formidable eastern adversary. This impending departure, scheduled shortly after the Ides of March, was a critical factor for the conspirators. They understood that if Caesar left Rome surrounded by loyal legions, he would be virtually untouchable, and his triumphant return, if successful, would only further cement his unassailable position, making any future attempt to restore the republic impossible. So again, I just want to throw this out there because this is part of that theory.
Mhm.
Another reason Caesar may have been trying to go to the Parthian Empire and doing this war, right? Because these are people Rome doesn't fuck around with.
Yeah.
Every time they do, they end up like Crassus, where they have a belly full of molten gold.
Almost making it a suicide mission if he knew that he was going down. Got you.
Right. So like I do think he would have been successful, but he's thinking it like this. Either because the way you don't want to go as a Roman is a sickly old man death.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But at least not like, oh, quietly falls asleep in his bed and 90 and dies. That's fine. But like convulsing, not in control of yourself anymore, that is the worst thing that could happen to you. Right?
Because it's seen as unmanly. Yeah.
Right. And it also could be a sign that the gods disapproved.
Yep.
So it could undo everything you did, because when you're dead, people could be like, see, it was proof that they disagreed with him. Right. So what is appropriate is to die in battle. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or or he wins and he comes back super successful. Either way, he wins in his head. Right.
Yeah.
So as long as he dies an honorable battle death or suicide, because apparently that's on the table with Romans, then because that was Crassus' downfall, was that he died in enemy hands.
Yeah.
But that's also a theory of why he's been pushing more and more, because it's like, God, doesn't this guy just want to take a break? If he's getting worse, then no. And if he's having strokes on the forum steps, definitely no. He needs to get out of here before people catch on, right?
Yeah.
So, but they're also not wrong, because they realize if he leaves, like, that's it, right? And then either way, they can't besmirch his name.
Yeah. Because if he comes home on his shield,
yeah,
he still did the work and he still has his legacy. They have to destroy the very memory of him.
Yeah, and so far, to be fair, he's doing a good job. Like, he is doing good things, and the public like him for these things. So, right. The only thing they've got going for them is he needs to do something either so un-Roman that the people can't support it, or that the gods don't approve. They need the gods at this point to intervene, to make this legal. Because his ambitious programs so far, public works, social reforms, have all been very popular with the common people and veteran soldiers, right? And of course, this is threatening to the entrenched aristocracy. It's viewed as a means to bypass and diminish their authority, which it was. It was. And I think they're upset that no one's mad about it. Sound familiar? Anyway, and further centralizing power in his hands and undermining the traditional republican system of patronage and influence. Now, here's the thing. I'm not on board for Caesar, okay? Because really, he's trying to substitute oligarchy for authoritarianism.
Neither one of them are good, realistically.
No. It's a populist move, but like, populist does not mean democracy. So with that being said, throwing that out there, but I also don't feel bad for these old dudes either. You know, they're not, no one here's the good guy.
Correct.
No one.
So meanwhile, the conspirators, now galvanized by the Lupercalia incident, intensified their plotting like little crows having a little powwow.
A
This
murder of
diverse
crows?
a murder of crows.
Ah!
This diverse group, numbering between 50 and 60 individuals, included staunch Republicans like Marcus Junius Brutus, whose ancestors supposedly expelled Rome's last king, and Gaius Cassius Longinus.
He's back!
He's back.
Longinus!
A more pragmatic and fiercely anti-Caesarian figure, as well as disgruntled former allies like Decimus Junius Brutus Albinus, a close friend and trusted general of Caesar's, whom Caesar had even named as a potential heir, making his defection particularly shocking.
Which is interesting because, like, Brutus is also, like, an heir.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think Julius Caesar just promised everyone that you're an heir, everyone's an heir, because we'll get
Oprah.
into it, but for real, we'll get into it. But this becomes a problem later. It seems like everyone thinks they're an heir. Like, who the hell is this Brutus? You know, like, the first Brutus is the Brutus, Marcus Brutus, the famous one, where we get brutal from and brutality from.
Et tu, Brute?
Right.
So, they were united by the conviction that only Caesar's death could save the Republic from tyranny. They held secret meetings, often in private homes, to avoid detection. A key debate amongst them was whether to assassinate Mark Antony as well. Cassius reportedly argued strongly for it, recognizing Antony's potential as a dangerous adversary and a formidable leader of Caesar's faction. However, Marcus Brutus vehemently opposed this, insisting that their act must be a sacrifice to liberty, a pure and principled act against tyranny, not a bloody political purge driven by personal vendetta. This decision, though principled in Brutus's mind, would prove to be a fatal miscalculation, leaving Caesar's most powerful and politically astute loyalist alive to rally opposition. The conspirators ultimately settled on the Senate meeting at the Curia of Pompey as the ideal location for the assassination due to its controlled access, which would minimize external interference and allow them to isolate Caesar. The presence of Decimus Brutus's gladiators nearby also offered a convenient cover for armed men in the vicinity, ready to act as a protective force or to facilitate an escape. The atmosphere in Rome during this period was also thick with omens and portents, which, regardless of their objective veracity, contributed to a pervasive sense of dread and foreboding, particularly from a superstitious Roman perspective. These were often recounted by ancient historians to underscore the perceived inevitability of Caesar's fate. The most famous was the warning from the Haruspex, soothsayer, Spirinia, who famously cautioned Caesar to beware the Ides of March. This warning was apparently given well in advance, and Caesar himself, on the morning of the Ides, reportedly encountered Spirinia and remarked, "The Ides of March are come," to which Spirinia chillingly replied, "Aye, Caesar, but not gone." Another reported sign included Calpurnia's disturbing dreams on the night before the assassination. She reportedly dreamt of their house collapsing and of holding Caesar's murdered body in her arms. Unusual thunder and lightning, strange lights in the sky, an owl hooting in the forum during the day, and the discovery of a sacrificed animal without a heart. A terrible sign in Roman divination. Caesar, typically a rationalist and a man of immense self-confidence, largely dismissed these warnings, viewing superstition as a weakness. This hubris, as recounted by ancient historians, ultimately contributed to his downfall, as he ignored pleas from his wife and trusted advisors to remain home.
And, the thing is, like, at the end of the day, I think a lot of this is tacked on later, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that there weren't signs. Read the room,
Yeah.
Like, you don't need, first of all, it is very concerning if you open up any animal and they're lacking a heart, yet we're walking around a minute ago.
Yeah.
That's problematic. But I would be concerned with Kiss as well, gods or no gods. But yeah, I mean, like, read the room. I'm sure there was anxiety, there were signs, and Calpurnia could have very well had that dream and not be psychic because it's anxiety. It's your subconscious telling you that you in danger, girl.
Oh, absolutely.
You
And
know,
so I'll
and
put it
him.
this way. Like, I don't necessarily want to get into like faith or anything, but the way that I see the world is that we are all like intrinsically connected. Think, what is it? Indra's net. Everything is
Mhm.
connected to everything else. Psychics and people who are able to see and feel and understand, they're just kind of tapped into that. They understand that connection and they're able to see through it versus just the, physical here and now and body, and that's it. So with this, these people are feeling the vibrations in the net and they're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, and so with all that being said, I am going to get a little bit. It feels like we're backtracking a little bit. But I am going to talk a little bit more about maybe the possible health stuff that was going on, right? Because this can also contribute to maybe his judgment, right?
Yeah.
So in more detail, right? Like I said earlier, beyond these political machinations and ominous signs, Julius Caesar's personal health was significantly a factor here. It's a little bit debated, but a lot of scholars are really leaning this way now, because it makes sense. So, despite his legendary vigor and military prowess, ancient sources suggest that Caesar faced recurring health challenges, particularly late in his life. These issues have been a subject of ongoing scholarly debate, with various diagnoses, like we were talking earlier, proposed based on the limited and somewhat dramatized accounts from his contemporaries, aka Cicero, the drama queen he is.
God, big
Um,
drama queen.
so, for centuries, like I had said, the most widely accepted diagnosis for Caesar's recurring health problems was epilepsy. This was known in Rome as morbus comitalis, or the falling sickness. And because, people would have epilepsy, they'd seize
Yeah.
and fall. Um, Ancient writers like Plutarch, Suetonius, and Appian describe Caesar experiencing sudden fainting spells, convulsions, and what Plutarch calls distemper of the head, or his, quote, usual sickness. So this is saying that this is happening often. Now, just remember what I said those symptoms are, though, right? The fainting spells.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Plutarch notably recounts an incident at the Battle of Thapsus at 46 BCE, where Caesar was seized. Caesar was seized. Uh, yeah, seized with his usual sickness while marshaling his troops, requiring him to be carried away to rest. Suetonius also mentions sudden fainting fits and nightmares that plagued him. While the term epilepsy was used by some ancient authors, their understanding of the condition differed from the modern medical knowledge. In ancient times, it was sometimes considered a sacred disease that could be interpreted as a sign of divine favor or possession, which Caesar might, while he was alive, subtly leveraged. However, modern medical scholarship, re-examining these ancient texts with contemporary diagnostic tools, have proposed alternative theories. One prominent theory suggests that Caesar suffered a series of transient ischemic attacks, aka TIAs, or those mini strokes I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Researchers argue that many of his documented symptoms include limb weakness, dizziness, headaches, sudden insensibility, and even reported personality changes and bouts of depression are highly consistent with TIAs. A key argument for this theory is the late onset epilepsy, as Caesar's symptoms appear to be is relatively rare, whereas TIAs commonly occur later in life. That be pretty much what they're saying is that usually if you're an epileptic, it's something you're born with,
Yeah, it
right?
wouldn't be something that you would have later in life.
And that's pretty rare. It's not
Mm-hmm.
impossible. There are cases of that, traumatic brain injuries and so on, but
Yeah. And I mean, he has
yeah,
been in battle a lot, so
right. But
it's
it's
not beyond
even
the scope.
then. But even then, a TI high blood pressure alone, right? It's such a common thing, can
Mm-hmm.
put you at risk for strokes. And he's old.
Yeah.
Like, right. So, a key argument for this sorry. Furthermore, counts by Pliny the Elder of Caesar's father and another relative dying suddenly suggest a hereditary predisposition to cardiovascular disease, lending to the support of a stroke-related diagnosis. Other less common theories include Meniere's disease, which is apparently affects the inner ear and causes vertigo, cerebral tuberculosis, or even arteriovenous malformations, like some kind of like underlying heart condition,
Yeah.
which I guess all of those things could be true, but we don't have a body.
Nope.
So yeah, we can't really tell. All of this, all of it, right, is hypothetical
Speculation.
speculation station, but
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the precise medical diagnosis, it was clear that Caesar's physical well-being was in decline during his final years, right? He was having something going on. We don't know what, but something was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And this declines coincide. And I mean, also think about that, like when this is happening, think how stressed he is.
Incredibly.
Like,
He's having
right.
to constantly, it's one thing after another after another. He's not getting any moment of respite. Yes, he had
No.
that year with Cleopatra, but guess what? He's still having to like get
Even
shit
then,
done at that time.
it's like you've
Yeah.
got that angst back. I think that was just his mental and body telling him, no, no more. You need a break.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even then, in the back of his mind, there's a whole ass country you're supposed to be running. You
Yep.
can't be too comfortable. You can't when you're procrastinating, right? And that's ultimately what this is.
Mm-hmm.
It was, like he's procrastinating having to go back. This just feels so good, but eventually you're going to have to. And if we've all been there, and we know how that ruins a vacation.
It really does.
So, even if you take a year long one, with a smoking hot babe, but with a sexy brain, but yeah. So with that being said, the moments of insensibility or unusual behavior, such as his failure to rise when that senatorial delegation approached him, could be attributed to these health problems rather than solely arrogance. While Caesar himself often dismissed such ailments, his physical vulnerabilities add a layer of human frailty to an image of the seemingly invincible dictator. Can't admit something's wrong.
Of course
You
not.
can't. And that is tragic.
It
Whether
does.
you like him or not. That's kind of fucked.
It's
It
sad.
does paint a light where I think in his head anyway, I don't know, I wouldn't say he had best intentions per se, but like, I don't think he was just doing it for fun, you
No.
know? So, or for just his own personal shit. Because he's going well beyond that. He's gone well beyond that a long time ago. He could have been, if that's all he was looking for, he could have been comfortable a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
It could also have been why he was pushing so hard to go to war with Parthia, as we said, because it would have looked better to the toxic Romans to die in battle rather than some mysterious illness. So, and also his enemies could use this to undo everything he worked so hard for. Because just as right now he can say, "Oh, I'm having a fit because the gods love me and they sent me a sign." When he's not there to defend it, they could say the opposite.
Exactly.
So that is to say, this hidden aspect of his health might have influenced his decision making, his public interactions, and certainly contributed to the overall atmosphere of uncertainty and the foreboding in Rome as the Ides of March approached.
The morning of March 15th, 44 BCE, began with an unusual and uncharacteristic hesitation from Julius Caesar. Troubled by Calpurnia's vivid nightmares and the unfavorable omens from the morning's auguries, he seriously considered postponing the Senate session. This moment of wavering highlights the immense psychological pressure he was under. Despite his outward display of invincibility, however, the conspirators' plan hinged entirely on his presence.
You can't stab someone if they ain't there. So
Exactly.
mm-mm.
Decimus Junius Brutus Albinus, a trusted friend and general of Caesar's and one of the key conspirators, played a crucial role in ensuring Caesar's attendance. Decimus skillfully appealed to Caesar's pride, arguing that his absence would be seen as cowardly, disrespectful to the assembled Senate, and might even lead them to revoke the honors they were supposedly prepared to bestow upon him that day. He also reportedly mocked Caesar for listening to a woman's dreams. Convinced. I know. Here's the thing. Here's the
God.
thing.
We make this go one paragraph without misogyny. But my God.
I would love that so much.
It.
But here's the thing. If you ignore a woman's dreams, do so at your own peril.
Clearly.
I'm super fucking serious.
Like, for real. The series has already ignored 2 women. You know?
Yep.
The lady whose job it is to predict this shit. It's literally her job. Like, it's her job. Yep. You gave her that job. It's her job. And
exactly.
Like, why even have that job if you're just going to ignore it?
Because
Stupid.
People can, and I've told you this. I've told you this before because, like I said, I read tarot and I do readings for people. People will come to me asking me questions. I will answer it with what I call my tarot bitch slap, because my tarot cards will fuck you up if you do not come right. Realistically, they will fuck you up. They will fuck up your day. And they don't like the answer. They don't listen. Guess who I hear from 2 weeks later saying you're right? You were right. Mm-hmm. I am sorry. Exactly. Don't ignore the shit. When you are given these kinds of things, don't fucking ignore it. It might seem woo-woo and out there and disconnected from reality, but baby doll, no one truly understands the entirety of existence. The why, the how, the what, and the when. Nobody understands it.
I just love that this is literally like a taxpayer position. She is a CRF that is government sponsored, and like you use tax dollars for what? To ignore the lady. I'm like, what?
I know.
What?
It's fucking wild. Like, dude.
Like, it's bad enough that they're like, oh, don't listen to your wife, the dumb bitch. But like, literally, he had it was her job, state sponsored.
Yep.
And I just like, why? Like, why even have it? You could choose to not have that be a job. Exactly. You know? Exactly. And it's just funny. I don't know. Like, whatever.
So Caesar was convinced by Decimus's persuasive arguments and perhaps his own sense of destiny. He set out for the Curia of Pompey. His journey to the Senate was fraught with last-minute warnings, which, in retrospect, add to the tragic irony of the day. A man named Artemidorus reportedly tried desperately to hand Caesar a scroll detailing the entire plot. But Caesar, ever busy and surrounded by petitioners, casually put it aside, intending to read it later.
So I love this. So hold on.
Before
he leaves the house, Before he leaves the house, his wife's like, yo, I don't think you should go. Ignores her. Goes down the street, meets the lady whose job it is to predict those things. Had already talked to her before. And he's like, hey, look, see, I'm still here. And she goes, mm-hmm.
The day's not
The
done
day's
yet.
not over yet.
Yup.
And then a guy literally is handing him a scroll, giving the play-by-play, because like these guys were a mess when they were putting this thing together. They were like, oh, secret houses, secret. Yeah, and there's servants in those houses. Like everyone knows. But Caesar apparently. Yeah. It's just like, what is happening? Like, oh my God, how many chances this? I almost don't even feel bad for him at this point. God.
I'm sorry, when the universe talks to you, fucking listen. I don't care whose mouth it's using. When the universe talks to you, please fucking listen. But these missed warnings underscore the conspirators' narrow window of opportunity and Caesar's fatal overconfidence. Upon entering the Curia, Caesar took his seat. The conspirators, numbering between 50 and 60 individuals, immediately surrounded him under the pretense of presenting petitions. Tullius Cimber initiated the attack, approaching Caesar with a petition to recall his exiled brother. As Caesar dismissed him, Cimber grabbed Caesar's toga, pulling it down from the neck, the prearranged signal. Yep.
It's just like he's like, Nick, get out here, and then I just have that image. He grabs my toga, and Caesar just goes, like
pretty much. Publius Servilius Casca Longus was the first to strike, aiming a blow at Caesar's neck with a dagger, but only managing a glancing wound. Caesar initially resisted, even reportedly piercing Casca's arm with his stylus. The other conspirators then swarmed forward. A chaotic and desperate melee of daggers, and it was a shit show. Though Caesar was able to violently throw Casca away, Casca stabbed him in the side. Within moments, Caesar was attacked from all directions, with Cassius slashing Caesar's face, Brucellinus stabbing at the back, and Decimus slicing his thigh. Caesar attempted to get away, but blinded by blood, he tripped and fell. The men continued stabbing him as he lay defenseless on the lower steps of the portico. But these rich old men had no experience in this level of violence, and it showed, some even stabbing so wildly that they stabbed other conspirators' hands. However, when he saw Marcus Junius Brutus among his attackers, he legendarily uttered his famous last words, Et tu, Brute? And you, Brutus. Or, as some ancient sources suggest, a Greek phrase, Kai su teknon? You too, child? A poignant expression of betrayal from a man who had shown Brutus considerable clemency and favor. At this point, Caesar ceased resisting, pulling his toga over his head, and collapsed, receiving 23 stab wounds, bleeding to death at the foot of Pompey's statue. A grim and deeply symbolic irony. As he fell before the image of his great rival, whom he had defeated in the Civil War.
And even more irony on irony on irony. Yeah. Remember how Pompey died?
Yeah.
Throwing
the toga over his head, the exact same way.
As he was being stabbed, he tripped, and then he got stabbed to death. Now, it's not Caesar doing it, okay, like, we know that, but, like, there is irony there. I mean, he's dying at the feet of his rival, who died in a very similar manner.
Exactly. It's depressing.
Yeah. Yes and no. I don't know. Like, there's like this. I mean, it's depressing, sort of, but like at the same time.
I mean, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Realistically, like it's depressing, because it's his own people. I think that's the part
Yeah,
that gets me. It's his own people, or what's supposed to be his own people. Whereas, at least with Pompey, it was foreigners.
yeah,
Now, the cowardice, obviously, of Ptolemy was like huge.
right. But
Oh
he was
yeah,
also a
we're gonna.
child.
Yeah, he was also a child, but still, the cowardice of Ptolemy murdering somebody when they came for refuge. One
Oh
that
yeah,
violates like every law and just understanding of a visitor, because visitors in those regions are treated very well for a reason.
right.
But
And
this was
I
done by
mean,
his own people.
right. And the thing is that give me 2 seconds because I'm going to look up the term. So the Greeks have this term, right? Because like we people have argued, well, it was different. Ptolemy and his court, it was a doggy dog world, blah blah blah. They knew better. The Greeks were infamous for Xenia, right?
Yeah.
It's a major plot in all of their myths, including the Iliad, of the Odyssey, right? This idea that when strangers come to you, you have to, it's your sacred duty to welcome them,
Yeah.
right? Um, and like that philoxenia or love of stranger is is the standard. It's what you should be aiming for, right?
Absolutely.
Um, and violating Xenia was a grave offense. Like when Odysseus stabbed the Cyclops, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole book. The whole book is explaining because he was an asshole and did that. Which, to be fair, I don't think he was a very good host, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but which
No,
that could
and
be also
there's
the flip side of that. But because right,
yeah.
but at the end of the day, the whole point of this is that when you and there's so many stories in Greek mythology, like where Zeus or Hermes or sometimes both of them or whatever would show up as like simple peasants, right? Um, and like the family that welcomed them would be rain,
Blessed.
wealth and all blessings would be rained upon them, and anyone who rejected them would be punished, right? So
Exactly.
it's in
And
the culture.
it is very much in the culture, and there's even a story from this area. I don't necessarily remember if it was necessarily Turkey or Greece, to be honest. But it's a story of an innkeeper and the innkeeper's bed. People would come
Mm-hmm.
to the innkeeper's bed, and if they were too small to fit the bed, he would stretch them to fit it. So imagine being stretched and like disfigured
That
to fit the bed.
yes, there's a tale, and there's another one from Athens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where so one Theseus, royal douchebag to the stars. Uh, we talk about him in our one of our
Indeed.
very first episodes with Dionysus, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things he does on his way to Athens is supposedly kill a shit ton of criminals on the way.
Yep.
Um, and one of those serial killers slash criminals was a guy who had a bed, and if you didn't fit it, he would. If you were too big for the bed, he would chop off your legs.
Yep.
And if you were too small, he would stretch you out. So yes.
Yes.
And like his just reward apparently was Theseus stabbing him in the guts.
Well,
Because
yeah.
eventually it catches up with you, I guess.
It does,
So
but it's violating that principle, and the violation of
yeah,
that principle is the reason why he was murdered in the way that he
right,
was murdered.
right.
Because realistically, like all I can think of is one of the really fucked up American stories that we have of one of the hotels up in the
Yes,
Chicago area from the World Fair. Oh
yeah,
my
Holmes.
god. Yes, that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And there's a
serial
lot of stories that
killer.
yeah, so it's even in our culture today pretty prevalent, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you look at Christianity with like the whole birth of Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the innkeeper who kicks them out and doesn't give them a room isn't usually looked upon kindly,
No,
you
he's
know?
not. Most certainly not.
Like, and it's like to point out that like this guy had no idea that this son of God was going to be born. And, like, I guess if he had just let them in,
Mm-hmm.
instead it was, and that's why you have the shepherd boy instead. And that's one sort and blah, 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 blah. So like, I'm not a theologian. It's not my vibes. I'm just saying I'm noticing the parallels there, right? It's
Yeah.
in our culture that you are supposed to treat guests well. It's
Exactly.
literally the story of Beauty and the Beast by Disney. That's the plot, because he was ratchet to an old lady who turned out to be a hot fairy lady. So,
I mean, yeah.
but tell me like where the story sounds familiar. It's just like when Zeus showed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
The point is that I agree with you. Um, and we've gone on a really long tangent with that. I did also want to say at the beginning, let's get back to Caesar getting stabbed, right?
Yeah.
So, remember at the beginning of this when the guy comes up to him and has a petition to bring his family member back, his exiled brother.
Yeah.
What if in that moment, and probably with the idea that knowing Caesar would not, right? I am curious what would have happened if he had said, yeah, sure, let me sign that. You're right. That could
Yeah.
have ended it because he's the guy who's supposed to be giving the signal.
Yeah.
And maybe that was almost a test, you know? Maybe deep down, this guy was hoping he would have said yes. Almost like a last chance.
Yeah.
And I do find that interesting. Like, what if, like, there are so many what ifs in the, like, fifth, like, in the morning of this day. Like, so many chances that this could have turned around if any of it's true, right? And
Yeah.
yet, here we are.
Here we are.
So now he's dead.
Now he is dead. Later, when a physician who had performed an autopsy on Caesar, he established that only one wound, the second one to his ribs, had been fatal. This autopsy report, the earliest known post-mortem report in history, describes that Caesar's death was mostly attributable to blood loss from his stab wounds. New Daddy Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, who had won every war he had fought in, taken down some of the most legendary warriors and leaders of his time, was taken down in just a few minutes by some frightened old men. According to Plutarch, after the assassination, Brutus stepped forward as if to say something to his fellow senators not involved in the plot. They, however, fled the building. Brutus and his cohorts then marched through the city announcing, "People of Rome, we are once again free." And shocking no one, they were met with silence, as the citizens of Rome had locked themselves inside their houses as soon as the rumors of what had taken place began to spread. According to Suetonius, after the murder, all the conspirators fled. Caesar's body lay untouched for some time afterwards, everyone being too afraid to touch it and waiting to see which way the political wind would blow. It was finally 3 slaves who put him on a litter and carried him home, with one arm hanging down.
The drama
So
of
much
this
drama.
moment.
So
Let's
much drama.
unpack it. So,
Literally.
let's, first of all, clearly, Brutus and all these guys did not read the room correctly.
I don't know if
Silence,
they can.
right? Yeah. And I love They're like, fellow senators, and there's these old guys like, nope, and they're just like, now you're biting me.
They're like, fuck that, I'm not dying today.
I didn't see shit. And then they leave the building, and then all of these people, they're locking the doors like, nope, that's a nope from me, dog. Don't care what you do, don't care where you go, just can't be here.
Exactly.
And as this is all going on, as Cleopatra's shaking in her boots back at the villa, and we'll get to what Mark Antony's doing in a minute, Caesar's just hanging out, deadly quiet, like this, for hours, just laying there on the floor. What an end. And the only people brave enough to touch him, because let's be real, the reason people aren't rushing to take care of him is because they don't know where the winds are going to blow. Mm-hmm. So they're worried if they touch Caesar or treat him with respect, that if the wrong side comes out on top, that they'll be viewed as traitors and killed.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if they desecrate the body and Caesar's gang come out on top, they'll be viewed as traitors. And right. So everyone's just like, nope. But this guy's just the guy who's done so much, admittedly, to change a lot of these people's lives for the better, is just laying there on the floor. No one wants to touch him. And it's 3 slaves. People who, quote unquote, don't matter. People who have the most to lose, because who cares if you kill a slave? They're the only ones brave enough to do it and bring him home. People Caesar may not have even noticed.
No, I think Caesar did notice them because of how Rome did the freedman with the slaves. And I think that might be one of the reasons why they did it, is because there was a certain amount of respect there. Yes, Caesar, had the love of the public and he did things very well. But realistically, I think he was loved by all sectors, with the exception of the aristocratic class.
And I would say this, there are no heroes in this story, right?
Absolutely.
Those 3 men, I'm assuming men, these 3 slaves, who we don't even know their name, we don't know their story. I'm admitting, we don't even know their gender, to be fair. I'm assuming they're male, but they could have been a lady there. I don't know. Right? Mm-hmm. They're the only heroes here. Mm-hmm. Because they are the only ones who embrace their humanity. There is a man dead on the floor and deserves respect.
Yeah.
It's not about politics, and maybe it is, but ultimately it's human decency. And yet those are the people who we don't know. And that, folks, is history.
Yeah.
There are no heroes in history. And if there are, more often than not, you don't know their name.
Exactly.
So, that's a bummer. Are we going to imagine him dead in the thigh-high boots or not? Anyway, so...
You know what? I actually had a thought. I had a thought, and it was... So I've been diagnosed with POTS, which means, I have to wear, compression socks. I wonder if maybe the thigh-high boots were also, potentially...
Yeah,
something like that.
So.
You know what I mean? The fact that he would go from not doing it to doing it. I don't know. It kind of lingers in the back of my head.
I think that you are a good person who believes in the best in people. I really do think it was a power move. But
absolutely was a power move, but you can make something that you need a power move. That's easy.
I guess so. I don't think he would have understood, but maybe. I mean, we'll give him that. But I'm just more imagining that end of Rocky Horror when
Mm-hmm.
you've got Dr. Frankenfurter going, and as he's trying to run away, and you've got like he's going zap 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 zap. It's just that, but with knives. And then like he gets like caught up in the curtain.
Shit. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It's that
It just
vibes.
like
It's that
that
vibes.
was a thought that entered my mind, and I'm just like, I wonder, because going from not wearing the boots, honestly, like, yes, saying divine right and everything like that, the attribution to Aphrodite, things of that nature, cool. But
To
I
be
don't
fair,
know.
these boots that I'm talking about are not existent, right? He's not wearing
Yeah.
6-inch stilettos. They're
No,
like gladiator
yeah, they're
shoes.
like
Like
gladiator shoes.
they're flats. So he could run in them. But it's for my head canon. So whoever is doing this play for me, because I'm assuming someone's doing it now, you are incorporating that scene in the stabs, okay? Where he goes, oh, he gets caught up in the toga.
Please.
It's that whole
God, I want to
scene,
see it so bad.
okay? And maybe Antony comes in and carries him out. No, make it 3 super buff slaves, oiled up,
Yeah.
all wearing Speedos.
Oh boy.
Speaking of Tony, okay? But where is our buddy? Where's our lovable jock at, right? So, he has a part to play in this as well. His position is important for this plot. That being him not being there. Make
Mm-hmm.
sure the hot buff guy who's good with swords is not there. So, Tony's whereabouts on the Ides of March were critical to the conspirator strategy, and therefore his absence was meticulously planned. The conspirators had debated killing Antony, as we talked about earlier, right? Like, just kill him. But Brutus is not for it, whatever. Kind of a dumb bimbo for that. But whatever. But this decision, though born of high principles in Brutus's mind, would of course prove to be a fatal miscalculation for the long run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, to ensure Antony didn't interfere, this guy, who cares? Gaius Trebonius, who cares? He was one of the conspirators, of course, and a former legate of Caesar's. A lot of people who knew Caesar well in this stabby stab. Was specifically tasked with detaining him. As Antony approached the Curia, Trebonius, big old boner, engaged him in conversation outside, drawing him away from the main entrance and into an adjacent portico for lengthy discussion. We all know those people. You see them in the grocery store and they're like, oh my God, hi, how are you? And then like they just won't stop yapping. Turns out they're there to keep you from discovering an assassination plot.
Oh,
That's the plot twist
glorious.
here. So she's not just your sweet old neighbor from when you were a kid. She's a murderer. Anyway,
She's
she
a
stabbed
murderer.
Caesar. She's complicit. And so you go ahead and tell her that the next time she drags it, be like, look, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to stab new daddy Caesar, and like walk away from her and just leave her. She'll also think she has stroke.
I
So,
need a t-shirt that just says random conversation. No, the assassination will not go on.
just like, don't talk to me. I know you're trying to kill new daddy Caesar.
Yes. I love it.
So,
I need that as a t-shirt.
and like that's Plutarch explicitly states this, that Trebonius was, quote, to keep Antony in conversation at the door and keep him talking.
Mm-hmm.
So when news of Caesar's assassination broke, Antony's initial reaction was of profound fear and shock. He reportedly fled the forum in haste, disguised. So he abandons his robes and he decides to disguise himself as a slave. Don't ask me what that means. Maybe he's just naked again. I don't know. So, because he's just shedding clothes left and right. But he's disguised as a slave at a friend's house, apparently. So, again, Antony's not going to the forum to get Caesar's body or try to stop. He's just like, oh shit. And he also gets out of Dodge. So, the slaves are braver than Antony.
Well, the slaves also wouldn't be a target.
Not in the moment, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I just find that that's interesting, because he's known for being so brave and brash, but like then in this moment he's like, oh shit,
I mean, I probably would be too. Realistically,
I mean, I would be too. I'm not saying
like
he should have.
if
I
you
just think
know
it's
that
funny.
you're number 2 and number 1 just got like, bitch, I'm running.
I just feel like it's funny because, like, if I was writing this as a novel, I would say that was against the character, like that it built up. So I just find that interesting. So he genuinely believed that the conspirators, having killed Caesar, were now going to come for him, which I would agree. He's the second in charge. Purges have happened before, as he is very familiar with. So his initial impulse was self-preservation. However, his political acumen quickly reasserted itself. Within hours, as the initial chaos subsided and he realized the conspirators had not made any moves against him, he began to assess the situation and act with remarkable speed and cunning. With the help of Lucius Calpurnius Piso, Caesar's father-in-law, also knows the naming trend there. Remember when we talked about that? Calpurnius. She's just daddy's property. Anyway, just throwing that out there. Antony quickly gained possession of Caesar's will and other private papers. This swift and decisive action would prove to be an invaluable asset, providing him with the insights into Caesar's final wishes and political arrangements, which he would exploit with devastating effect in the days that followed. It just feels weird, though, like rigor mortis is barely set in, and your first thought is like, where's the will? I mean, I get it from a political standpoint. It's just like,
no,
wow.
it is weird when we think about it that way, but at the same time, if these people are going to literally take him out, like,
right, I'm just saying it's
Caesar,
more about and that's just like something that would happen today too. I guarantee it. It's like it tells me that once you hit a certain level of power, you eventually are stripped of humanity.
Absolutely.
Right. And like sad. You said, oh, well, there's more to lose. And there is. But it's like, so I don't know. I don't know if I want power like that. To be so stripped of humanity on all different levels. Caesar is stripped of humanity by being just left like garbage on the floor. Antony's losing his humanity here because it's not that he doesn't care about his friend, but his first instinct is A, to get the hell out of there, and then B, where's the will? Body's barely cold. And then you got your conspirators who, also have lost their humanity, for obvious reasons, because they just done stabby stab someone and expected everyone to be cool with it. Yeah.
It's
I don't know.
tough. It's tough, realistically.
Yeah. So Antony at this point has recovered from his initial terror pretty quickly. And admittedly, these subsequent actions are a brilliant display of political opportunism and rhetorical genius that fundamentally reshaped the aftermath of the assassination. While Rome, because he's already got his speech, he's got those interns, they're writing speeches, they're getting ready. While Rome was gripped by uncertainty and fear, with the conspirators barricaded on the Capitoline Hill, Antony, along with the other Caesarian loyalists like Lepidus, Caesar's master of the horse, he's still there, began to consolidate their position. An initial fragile truce was negotiated with the quote-unquote liberators. So for right now, you're going to hear us use terms Caesarian and liberators. Caesarians are the people who supported Caesar. The liberators were the people who thought by stabbing Caesar, they were liberating Rome.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind. And it's brokered by our good old friend. Do you want to take a wild guess, Courtney?
Cicero.
Oh, Cicero. The neutral one, among others. This agreement granted amnesty to the assassins in exchange for the Senate's confirmation, which, by the way, Cicero did not participate in the stabby stab. He was one of the old fucks who said, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I think there's actually a story where they turned to Cicero expecting him to support them, and he's like, nope, and left. Like him specifically. So, yeah. So, this agreement granted amnesty to the assassins in exchange for the Senate's confirmation of Caesar's acts, his appointments, laws, and grants, right? Which to me is like, what was the point of killing this guy?
Yep.
This was a crucial concession for Antony, as it legitimized his own position as consul and allowed him to maintain control over the machinery of government, preventing an immediate collapse into outright civil war, which he knows would suck. He's not ready for all that.
No, I don't think any of them are.
No. This truce, however, was purely tactical, a temporary measure for both sides to gauge public reaction and consolidate their power, right? Because right now, everyone's like, ooh, how are the public feeling about this? The pivotal moment, however, came with Caesar's public funeral. Despite the strong objections of Cassius, who rightly feared Antony's influence, yet again, I gotta say, Cassius is the smart one.
Why don't they listen to him more?
Because he's Velma. They wasn't a her either until the end. Brutus, in yet another display of what he believed was magnanimity and adherence to the Republican principles of free speech. I mean, which I say that, like, I mean, I'm cool with free speech. I'm just saying, like, if you done a coup and you done stab someone,
don't give them a chance to be in front of people and sway public opinion.
All right. So, they granted Antony permission to deliver a funeral oration. This also tells me that maybe they underestimated him. They're thinking he's just a joke. And I think that's really stupid because he has thus far proven that he can talk pretty good too. So I don't know why they would think this. Arrogance. This proved to be the conspirator's second and arguably most fatal miscalculation. And when I say conspirators, I mean Brutus. They believed Antony would deliver a eulogy that acknowledged Caesar's virtues, but also justified the assassination as necessary for the act of the Republic. Why would they assume that?
Fucking morons.
Like, let's look at the through line, guys. Who does that? Thank you for killing the guy I worked for. I appreciate it so much. Who, at best, they were looking was for him to not bring it up. That's what I would be hoping for.
People are dumb. Antony's funeral oration was delivered in the Roman Forum and is still considered a rhetorical masterpiece. Now, the one we read at the top of the show was from the famous Shakespeare play Julius Caesar, and the original, if ever recorded, was lost. However, it was presented, though. It was a calculated performance designed not to explicitly condemn the conspirators. He was under an agreement not to, and repeatedly referred to them with heavy irony as honorable men, but to subtly, yet powerfully, turn the vast Roman populace against them. He spoke as Caesar's loyal friend, appealing directly to the emotions of the common people. He wept. He paused for dramatic effect, and he used vivid imagery to paint a picture of Caesar's virtues and his love for Rome. The climax of his speech involved the dramatic unveiling of Caesar's blood-soaked toga and the display of his numerous stab wounds, particularly highlighting the wound inflicted by Brutus, Caesar's trusted friend. This visceral display of brutal murder deeply shocked and angered the crowd, transforming their abstract understanding of the assassination into a raw and emotional experience of grief and outrage. And I wonder if he got this from Fulvia.
Ring a ding 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 ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. That I will absolutely attribute to her. Now, of course, he also could have just straight up, without her telling him, like, to do it per se, like, just seen when she had done it. And, like, that's a great idea. But yeah, the parallels there. There's also a part that I didn't really include here. In both of these cases, there were wax effigies. Mm-hmm. This was a weird thing that Romans did during funerals, where they almost did like the really freaky caricatures, like you get like the fair and crap. Yeah. They would do these like lifelike wax replicas of the person who died. And essentially it looked like that person times like whatever was at his own funeral, watching himself die and be burned. Right. And they would do crazy things and stuff like that. Very unique tradition. And so those were there. Right. Mm-hmm. Another thing I wanted to point out, I just love Antony for this, right? It's like, yeah, these guys were so cool that they stabbed. See how he stabbed him right here? Right here. That's how you can tell they're good people, because they stabbed so hard at a guy who gave you all bread. That's how cool they are.
He stabbed a guy so hard that, he did it from behind him in an unexpected position.
Because they're so honorable.
They're such good people that they would stab somebody quite literally in the back.
And right. And so I just love that it's the shade of it all. I don't know what they expected. Yeah. And also Pinky promised he won't talk bad. Oh, I won't. And he walked off that stage. Their mouths were hanging open. He's like, and they're like, I thought you said you weren't going to do anything bad. He goes, what?
I didn't say
what are you talking about?
Bad. What are you talking about?
I said how great you guys were.
I said you were honorable.
Right. Did I say you were bad? No. Sounds like a guilty conscience to me. Bye. Yeah, bye. Have fun with the mob. I don't know what they could be angry about. Bye. Like, ooh.
The decisive blow, however, came with Antony's reading of Caesar's will. The will revealed that Caesar had bequeathed a substantial sum of money, 300 sesterces, to every Roman citizen, and had left his magnificent private gardens across the Tiber to the public for their enjoyment.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Any chance they had, right? Mm-hmm. I'll let you keep going, but for real.
No, it's seriously. This act of immense generosity instantly transformed Caesar in the eyes of the plebeians from a perceived tyrant into a beloved benefactor and a champion of the common people. The conspirators, who had claimed to kill Caesar for Rome's freedom and to prevent his tyranny, were now exposed as having murdered a man who had loved and provided for the very people they claimed to liberate. The combination of Antony's emotional appeals, the horrifying sight of Caesar's mutilated body, and the revelation of his extraordinary generosity ignited an uncontrollable fury among the Roman populace. Incensed, they seized firebrands from the funeral pyre and rushed through the streets, seeking out and attacking the conspirators and their property, effectively turning the tide of public opinion against the liberators and forcing them to flee Rome. The funeral oration was a resounding success for Antony and a catastrophic failure for the conspirators. Brutus and Cassius, along with the other liberators, were forced to flee Rome to save their lives, their attempt to restore the Republic through assassination having backfired spectacularly. For a time, Antony became the most powerful man in Rome. He controlled the capital, had the fervent loyalty of Caesar's enraged veterans, and wielded the consular authority. He used his position to confirm many of Caesar's appointments and acts, further solidifying his own power base and dispensing patronage, effectively stepping into Caesar's shoes as the leading Caesarian. However, Antony's dream of sole supremacy was soon challenged by the unexpected emergence of Caesar's young great-nephew and adopted son, Gaius Octavius, later Octavian, and eventually the Emperor Augustus. Octavian, though initially seen as politically inexperienced and sickly, skillfully capitalized on his inherited name and legitimacy. He famously used his own funds and borrowed heavily to pay out the legacies promised in Caesar's will, further endearing himself to the Roman populace and undermining Antony's claims to be Caesar's sole heir and champion. This burgeoning rivalry between Antony and Octavian would define the next decade of Roman history, eventually leading to the formation of the Second Triumvirate and a new, devastating round of civil wars that would ultimately consume the Republic.
The period from the Lupercalia to the Ides of March and the immediate aftermath of Caesar's assassination represents a crucial and highly dramatic chapter in Roman history, with Mark Antony at its very core. His role during Lupercalia as the primary actor in Caesar's audacious diadem test publicly exposed Caesar's monarchical ambitions and paradoxically solidified the conspirators' resolve to act. His strategic absence from the assassination scene, though initially driven by fear, proved to be a critical factor for his survival, allowing him to emerge as the leading figure of the Caesarian faction. Most significantly, Antony's masterful funeral oration for Caesar transformed the public's grief and confusion into a potent force of vengeance against the assassins, a rhetorical triumph that completely undermined the conspirators' cause. Antony's actions effectively sealed the fate of the liberators, and ironically, the Roman Republic itself. By turning public opinion decisively against Brutus and Cassius, he ensured their act, intended to restore liberty and Roman Republican ideals, instead plunged Rome into further chaos and yet again civil war. This period, rich with political intrigue, personal ambition, tragic irony, has been immortalized by historians like Plutarch, Cassius Dio, and good old Cicero himself, whose accounts provide vivid details and differing interpretations, often shaped by their own political biases. It is further cemented in the popular imagination by William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, which drew heavily on these sources, ensuring that the Lupercalia, the Ides of March, and Antony's pivotal role in both remain enduring symbols of political ambition, betrayal, and the exonerable march of history. The shadow of the diadem, cast by Antony's hand, ultimately heralded not the restoration of the Republic, but the dawn of the Roman Empire. A testament to the profound and unforeseen consequences of a single act of violence in the heart of Rome.
If you like what you heard today, please give us a positive review on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. It goes a long way for us to appease the algorithm gods and get this suggested to others just like you. The more that we can connect to our fellow history nerds, the more that we can build up a community and keep this show going.
Also, we have a Patreon where you can hang out with us and get exclusive content like videos where we might try and make ancient recipes, talk about topics that couldn't fit into the main arcs of the podcast, and generally being batshit and dumpster fires, all for the price of a latte per month. Research materials and books cost a lot of money, guys, and it takes a lot of time to create this show, so anything you provide would be a huge help.
We can't wait to see you again next week. And as always, thanks for listening.
Bye for now.
Bye, guys.